Welcome everyone. This is the Mylio overview webinar. I am JC Figueroa. I am the customer champion at Mylio, and I will be presenting and hosting the webinar for you today. Today's webinar is an introductory webinar. It's just an overview of what's possible with Mylio. And our goal really is to answer two main questions. What is Mylio? And for those of you that found out about Mylio when you purchased your Seagate drive, you might not even know what Mylio is about, right? It came with your drive. You thought you'd try it out. You just signed up for the webinar. Now you're wondering, is this even something I want? So we're going to aim to answer that question and describe what Mylio is and what Mylio does. And how does Mylio work? What is it that makes Mylio tick? Where does your photos go when you put them in Mylio? How is it that Mylio can synchronize your library between different devices and not use up all your storage space? So let's start with that first question. What is Mylio? And have a convoluted answer here that says Mylio is a distributed photo organization application, which sounds like a lot and nothing at the same time. But if we break that down into photo organization and then the distributed application, we can better explain this. So when it comes to photo organization, Mylio has a bunch of automated and manual tools that help you easily organize and find your photos. And throughout the webinar, I'm going to show you all the different ways in which Mylio organizes your photos. The distributed application part of Mylio is there because Mylio allows you to synchronize that organized library. So you consolidate all your photos, you create an organized library, and now that library is automatically synchronized between your devices and your different operating systems. So it doesn't matter if you're using Windows and an iPhone or a Mac with Android, or you have a Windows and a Mac computer, any combination of operating system and devices is going to get synchronized. So the photos from one device will show up on the other. This enables a lot of work flexibility, right? Because you don't have to sit in front of your computer to organize your photos. And whatever device you have with you is always available. Your library is always available. So you can see your photos no matter where you are, no matter what you have with you. And because Mylio is constantly synchronizing even to your storage devices, you have worry-free protection because every photo that you bring into Mylio automatically gets protected. Mylio is not a cloud service. And this is really important because a lot of people think that we're a cloud service and that you have to be connected to the internet and that your photos are going to be up on a server somewhere. And that is not correct. Mylio is completely not related to the cloud. We do support third-party cloud services. So if you want to bring one of your cloud services and make it that part of your account, that's possible. But Mylio is not a cloud service. All of the synchronization happens from one device to the next in what we call a peer-to-peer synchronization network. So let's just get started. I'm going to switch my screen here over to Mylio. What I'm sharing today is my own personal photo library. These are real photos from real life. This is how I organize my photos in Mylio. I've been using Mylio for years, well before I was a Mylio employee. So that's what I'm sharing with you today. A lot of family and goofy photos. If you see something funny, feel free to laugh at me or with me, however the case might be. So let's first cover the photo organization part. Most of you came in wanting to organize your library. So I'm going to discuss how Mylio helps you organize your photos and all the different tools that it has to do that. What we're looking at, which some of you might be familiar if you've imported some photos into Mylio already, is the calendar view. And the calendar looks just like that, like a calendar. Right now, if you look at the top center of our screen, we are in calendar in decade mode. And right now I'm looking at the 2010s decade. Down here at the bottom, you see the 2020s, but for the most part, we're in the 2010s. And as I scroll up through my library, Mylio starts showing me different decades with photos from my life. Now, I've taken the time to not only import all my digital photos into Mylio, but I've gone back and taken my prints and negatives, scanned those into digital files, and included those in my Mylio library as well. So using this calendar decade view, I can go back to many, many years. I can go into the 90s when my daughter was just a little baby. I can go into the 80s during my college and high school years. I can go into the 70s when I was a little kid. And then I can also go back into photos of my family well before I was around. There's photos of my dad receiving awards from the military. There's one of the few photos I have of my grandma. There's my brother sitting on my dad's, one of my dad's first cars. I can go all the way back into 1952 and 1953 and see photos of my parents getting married. So Mylio does help me organize and access my photos in a very simple, easy way. So there's, precious photos to me, my parents' wedding, and I can find that with Mylio pretty easily without having to do a lot of searching. And if I was looking at my phone, I could find this photo just as easily. Now let's move back down towards more recent times instead of the 1950s. Let's look maybe at the year 2018. One of the things you'll notice here is that there's different events in that calendar. Mylio tells me that between January and February, there was a Grand Cayman event. I happened to visit Grand Cayman for a conference. In August, I went to Alaska. I was traveling a lot that year, so there's all these events interspersed through Mylio. I can click on any one of those events, and Mylio will show me all the photos from that event. So here's my visit to Alaska to go see my daughter. And all the photos that we took during that trip are available as an automatic album right from the calendar. I can also, when I click on a year, see all the different months of that year. And if I click in, notice that instead of being in decade mode, now the calendar is in year mode. And if I click on a particular month, like May, now we're in month mode, and Mylio is showing me all the different days of that month that had photos in them. And if I click on a particular day, then Mylio shows me all the photos that were taken on that day. And at the very top, it shows me what day I'm looking at. And of course, from here, I can simply click on any one photo and interact with that photo. I can then do something like open the details panel, which is available from this button on the top right corner. And when I click that and click on info, Mylio gives me a lot of information about that photo, what camera it was taken with, different technical parameters of the photo as it was being taken, like aperture and the ISO rating, and then other information about the photo. I can put a title, I can put a caption, I can change the file name, I can add keywords, on and on and on and on. So that is the calendar view. Now the calendar view is just but one of the views in Mylio. And we like the calendar view because it helps you access photos based on when they were taken, whether it was a particular event that you're trying to remember or a particular period of time, like, back before I was born or last year or last month. It's very easy to access photos based on the date, based on when the photo was taken using Mylio. Mylio automatically creates this organization as long as the file that you bring in has the correct date on it. Most photos taken digitally, either with your phone or with a digital camera, as long as the time was set correctly in that device, the dates on the photos are correct. So Mylio uses that date to organize the photos. For photos like a paper scan, Mylio does give you the ability to correct the date on a photo. I'm going to scroll here all the way to the top of the calendar and go to a group of photos that do not have dates on them. These are photos that I scan and that I intentionally mark as undated because they're photos that came from a scan of a print photo, and the date on them is incorrect. But I can simply right-click on any photo and change the date. If I happen to know the exact date this photo was taken, I can go ahead and enter the date. If I don't know the exact date, I can give it a date range. So for example, that's my son. He looks to be about 7 years old, so that must have been around 2010. And we live in the Pacific Northwest. This was obviously in the summer because he's very warm. So that was sometime in the summer of 2010. So I could say, hey, Mylio, this photo was taken between June 1st of 2010 and say August 31st of 2010. And when I set that photo to that date, then that photo now goes to the calendar and I'm gonna find it in the correct place now instead of being undated or in the incorrect year. If I go to 2010, that photo will now show accordingly somewhere in the summer. So it might be in June, or it might be in July, or it might be in August. There it is at the beginning of August. So Mylio picked a random day within that range and it put that photo in the correct place. So that is how you can use Mylio to organize photos based on when they were taken. Again, most of that organization is going to happen automatically. For photos that where you have to correct the date, Mylio lets you correct the date on a single photo or even on a group of photos all at once. But there's other ways in which we remember, right? So remembering based on when a photo was taken is great, but what if you only remember where a photo was taken and you want to say, oh, remember when we went to that town in Texas and we were eating at this really cool diner? Well, you can use the map view in that case. And the map view shows you a map of the world and it starts presenting you icons of everywhere that you've taken photos. Again, this happens automatically as long as your photos have the GPS data in them. Most photos taken nowadays, particularly photos taken with a smartphone, are going to have GPS data in them. For photos that do not have that data, Mylio does give you the ability to enter that data very easily. And I'll show you that in a second. But for now, let's go ahead and zoom in on this map because I want to show you that the more you zoom in on a particular area, the more detail you get and the more specific Mylio gets about where your photos were taken. And you can even have different views. So Mylio will show you regular standard map, the map that we're used to seeing, very similar to what you're seeing on the screen. You can have a satellite view, or my favorite is a topographical view. And the topographical view is really interesting and useful because, you know, for example, I like to hike a lot. So I can use the topographical view and go look at a particular hike that I've taken. And Mylio not only shows me the contour lines and the elevation, how high I was when I was in that particular hike, but in this case, it even has the actual trail I was following. So I can follow along that trail and at any point just click on any group of photos and Mylio shows me all the photos that were taken in that particular location. In this case, this was one of the base camps that I set while I was hiking. So very useful view. And like I said before, for photos that do not have geotag data, for photos that haven't been tagged with GPS data from the camera or from the device that were taken, Mylio will show you all of those. So right here on the bottom left corner, there's a view on tag button. If I click on that button, Mylio will show me all the photos that it has that have not been geotagged. So there's a photo of our house right when we bought it, right before it was remodeled. Well, I happen to know exactly where that photo was taken, so I can correct this photo very, very easily. I can go ahead and ask Mylio to, using the mini map here on the information panel, I can type the street address of where I took this photo. Mylio is going to take me right there. And because I happen to know exactly where I live on a map, I can zoom in on that area and find the specific location. And then I can simply drag that photo to that location. I can just grab the photo. I can drag the photo to the right location, simply click the check mark, and Mylio will tag that photo accordingly. And of course, you can do that with multiple photos at once. So here's a few more photos of my house. I can drag all of those to the right place and tell Mylio, go ahead and geotag all those photos. And now if I go back to the map, those photos will be found in the right area of the map because they have been geotagged. You can also do things like take any particular photo and enter coordinates for it. This photo happens to have the geotag information already, but let's say you have one photo that has the information and a bunch of photos that don't. You can copy and paste the coordinates from one and paste it to the other photos. So lots of ways to mark your photos and organize them based on where they were taken. So now we've seen photos organized based on when they were taken and photos organized based on where they were taken. Let's look at photos based on who is in the photo. This is where Mylio's face recognition feature comes in really, really handy. What you're seeing now is the people view. And in the people view, Mylio creates automatic albums of all the people that are important in my life. These are people that I've told Mylio about, that I said, these are people that I care about. So I can scroll through. I'm going to grab the little letter A flag here and move it all the way down to M so that I can move very fast through a large group of photos that way. And I'm going to find the album for my daughter. There it is. Let me zoom in a little more. So there is Madeline, my daughter. Mylio tells me there's 2,042 photos of her. And it also shows me a little question mark. And the question mark means, hey, I think I found more photos of your daughter. I put them here in her album. You might want to confirm those photos. But what's great about the face recognition and the face tagging in Mylio is that once you set up a person, once you tell Mylio, this is Madeline, and what I did initially was I manually tagged a handful of photos, 5 or 6 photos of Madeline, and then Mylio learned that face. And then it went about my entire library and found all the photos that I had of Madeline. So now if I look at all the photos I have of Madeline, and I sort those photos by date in ascending order, I can go all the way back to her baby photos, which Mylio found. I can see her as a little girl, as a toddler, just continuing to grow up. Or I can scroll all the way to present time so I can see her at different ages. All the photos that Mylio has found of my daughter have been organized into this folder. I can go all the way to present times, and here's photos of my daughter now as a young woman. And Mylio not only shows me all the photos or the confirmed photos, it'll propose new photos. So here's photos that Mylio has found that says, I'm pretty sure this is your daughter Madeline, can you confirm? And all I have to do is click on the checkbox and tell Mylio, yes, that is indeed my kid. But it gets even easier because you don't have to do this on a photo by photo at any one time. Mylio creates a bucket of photos that have faces in them. Mylio is telling me, hey, there's 630 faces that you have not tagged. These are untagged photos. I can go into that group and I can do one of two things. I can go directly into one photo, turn on face recognition, and Mylio will show me the photo and give me the best guess as to who that is. That is indeed me. So Mylio has guessed correctly, or has put the top guess at the top. I can also go into the grid view where I can see all the photos, turn on batch tagging, and now Mylio is organizing all the photos into groups. So on the right side of the screen, you see all the photos that Mylio thinks is found of me, and it's put them all together, or all the photos of my wife. And it says here, I found some photos of your wife, or here's my aunt. I think I found 2 photos of your aunt, and it is correct. There they are. It also has a photo of my mom there in the same photo. So this face tagging can be done very quickly and very efficiently using either one face at a time or batch tagging. And those albums continue to get updated. So if you want to find a photo of someone that's important to you, that photo is likely going to be in their automated people album. So now we've seen 3 groups of photos that Mylio creates pretty much automatically. Photos, or 3 views rather. Photos that are based on when the photo was taken, on where the photo was taken, or how or who is in that photo. You can also manually create groups of photos based on what is in the photo. So in my case, I take a lot of underwater photography. I wanted an album that had all the photos of dolphins. So I found all my dolphin photos, put them all into one album, and I can go to that album and find every photo of dolphins that I've taken over the years. Albums in Mylio are really powerful because they provide another layer of organization beyond the automated views. And albums in Mylio can be nested. You can have an album within an album. So here's an album of my basement. And within that album, I've created another album with fewer photos that has the before and after shots of when we remodel our basement. And because Mylio let me sort photos not only by date, name, or rating, but also manually in an album, when I sort those photos manually, I can actually create that before and after effect, and I can turn this into a slideshow very easily. So I could just, now that I've put the photos in the correct order, I could select them all and say, hey, Mylio, play a slideshow for me. And Mylio would give me all kinds of preferences on how to set up that slideshow, and it would play those photos in the correct order, just like I want them to appear. So it's a very quick and easy way to create meaningful slideshows. Then we can combine all of this and be able to find any photo we want whenever we want it. So I'm going to go here to one of the views that I haven't shown you. It's called All Photos. This is what you probably are accustomed to seeing when you look for photos in your phone. It's just a bunch of photos. And as you scroll through them, you may or may not find the photo that you are looking for, right? You can just scroll and scroll and scroll. And it's like, okay, there's that photo. So we do have that view here. If you like to search for photos that way, we don't find it very efficient. But what we can do while we're in the All Photos view is we can do very complex searches. So I can say, Mylio, I want to find every photo I have where it is myself and my wife in the photo. So I can say, show me photos of JC and Sarah. And Mylio found 637 photos where we both happen to be in the photo. I can click here on the Show All button, and Mylio will show me all of those results. And if I do that, you'll notice that some of these photos are group photos where indeed Sarah and I are in the photo, but there's other people in the photo as well. Like there's one with my brother in it. And what I really want is, I want Mylio to find only the photos that have Sarah and I in the photos. So I'm going to say, okay, this is great, but how about you show me photos of JC and Sarah where the people count, meaning the number of people in the photo, is only 2 people. So when I select that, Mylio is going to make a differentiation. And for every photo that's face tagged, like there's some people in this photo, but we don't know who they are. They're not recognized. They're not part of my people group. So Mylio is mostly showing me photos where it's just the 2 of us in the photo. Now I could narrow this down further and say, okay, show me photos of my wife and I where we're the only 2 people in the photo, and the photo was taken, say, in Puerto Rico. That's where I'm from. That's where we got married. So there should be a lot of photos of us in Puerto Rico, and Mylio found about 65 of them. And when I click on Show All, here's all the photos. Now you might have noticed that Mylio is also showing me different ways of viewing these photos. One of the ways that where the results found something was the map. It's saying all of these photos are geotagged. If you want to see them on a map, we'll show you exactly where those photos of the 2 of you were taken in a map in Puerto Rico. So I can now zoom into any particular area, and the more I zoom in, the more Mylio will show me exactly where those photos were taken. So as you can see, the ability of Mylio to find just the photo that you're looking for is very, very granular and very, very powerful. And you can do searches not just in All Photos view. You can go into the map and say, okay, Mylio, show me all the photos of Madeline. And Mylio is going to only show me a map view that only has the photos of my daughter represented on that map. So the search results can be very, very specific to the view that you're looking at. If I go into the calendar view, for example, you might notice that there's all kinds of photos in my calendar. There's family photos, there's some work photos, there's quite a few of these underwater photos from my underwater photography hobby. What if I only wanted to see a calendar that was showing me just my underwater photos? Well, I could use a filter. I could tell Mylio, okay, I have created a category and I've assigned all of my underwater photos to that underwater category. So go ahead and show me just those photos. And Mylio now has changed my view to only include underwater photos. And if I go to any other view, like the map, you'll notice that the number of photos being shown in the map is much less, and that those photos are indeed only underwater photos. And that will permeate, that will continue through any view. If I go to people, it's only going to show me photos of people that are related to the underwater category. Most of these are my dive buddies, people that I've been diving with. So there's photos of them underwater. So Mylio is showing them. If I go to all photos, instead of Mylio showing me all 32,000 photos that I have on my library, it's only showing me 2,000 photos that correspond to that category. But I can take that filter and I can go even further. I could say, okay, I have 2,000 underwater photos. How about you show me only underwater photos that are rated 4 and 5 stars? And now Mylio is only showing me 50. And once again, I can use this to create a quick slideshow, or I could create an album from here. I could select all these photos and say, add to a new album, and I can create a new album called Best Underwater Photos, and create that album very quickly and easily. So this is how Mylio helps you organize your photos. And it goes further. There's all kinds of other features that I haven't even gone into that you can use with your photos. You can ask Mylio to show you photos based on keywords or other searches. Mylio will even read the text on your photos. So to give you an example, one of my friends has a sailboat that he keeps near where I live. And when I go paddleboarding near his boat, I sometimes take a selfie as a joke. So if I look for the name of his boat is Messing About. So if I just type messing in Mylio, that boat picture comes up because Mylio has read the text. And Mylio will read the text on any photo that has text in it, and will remember that text and make it searchable. So lots and lots of automated ways of organizing your photos in Mylio. All right, so that is what is Mylio. So Mylio is a distributed photo organization platform. You've seen the photo organization part. Now let's look at the distributed notion. If I go here to my dashboard, this is where I find information about my library. And what I've done is I've clicked here on devices, and Mylio is showing me all the devices that are part of my Mylio account, of my Mylio world. These are all the devices in which I interact with my photo library. Right now, the device I'm looking at is this iMac. That's the device I'm sharing from. So that's obviously an Apple computer running the Mac operating system. I also have a laptop that is also running Mac operating system, but I have a Surface machine, a Surface laptop, and that's running Windows. And that is also interactive with Mylio. Even though it's a different operating system, it doesn't matter. It goes transparently between Mac or Windows. The same is true of any mobile device. So I have a number of mobile devices. I have an Android phone, obviously running Android OS, and I have 3 Apple devices, an iPad mini, an iPad Air, and an iPhone. All 3 of those are running iOS. So I'm running 4 different operating systems, and my photos are being shared and distributed across these 7 different computers or mobile devices running 4 different operating systems, and Mylio just transparently moves back and forth. I also have 3 devices that are simply storage devices, and 2 of those have the word vault on them. And what that means is that those are devices that Mylio puts everything in. it takes the original version of my photo, meaning the full resolution, full quality, full size photo, and it puts it into the device that I've determined has enough storage to hold the full resolution version. My other devices, like my iPad mini, get an optimized version of the photo, a photo that is small enough so that it can still fit in that device without taking a lot of room. I'll use the Mac mini as an example to explain this, but this is true of all my devices. So my Mac mini is a rather old tablet. It only has 32 gigabytes of RAM or of internal memory. And if I click on the device quality, you'll notice if I were to set that device as a vault, it would require 309 gigabytes to store all my photos. Well, obviously, I don't have that much space in that device, so I couldn't do it. So I've set that device to thumbnails, and the thumbnails only take about 700 megabytes, a very small amount of storage. So all 32,000 photos are in my iPad mini. I can access them, I can interact with them, but they don't take a lot of space. I can also let Mylio do it for me. And a lot of my devices, you'll notice, are set to auto-optimize. That is the default with Mylio. So a lot of those devices, Mylio takes care of figuring out what version of the photo to fit in there, whether it's a thumbnail or the full-size original quality or something in between called a preview. And we're getting more into the part of Mylio where we talk about how does Mylio work? How is it that it can do all these things? Well, thumbnails, previews, and original is a big part of how Mylio allows me to do that. I can show you an example very quickly here. I'm gonna go to these photos of an otter that I took in Alaska. And if I open all three of these versions, I can show them to you. So here's the original otter. That original file, you'll notice, is about 2 megabytes. When I imported this photo into Mylio, Mylio took the original, it put it in the drives that I determined are the places for the originals, and then it created 2 more versions of that photo. It created a preview version, and I'm looking at the preview right now. And if I go back and forth between the original and the preview, you would be very hard pressed to tell the difference. In most devices, in most screens, the preview and the original are going to be visually indistinguishable. And I can do everything that I can do with the original with the preview, like edit that photo. I can do face tagging. I can do just about everything with that photo. But if I show you the size of the preview, it is about 1/4 of the size of the original file. So this is part of the magic of Mylio. Now, Mylio also creates a very small file called a thumbnail. And this file, it's just a fraction of the original size, about 1%. And I can still see that it's the otter. And I could still use this file to do a lot of my photo organization. I could add it to an album. I could change the date. I could geotag it. I could add categories or ratings or keywords to it. I could change the file name. I could do anything that I can do except edit the visual photo, because if I zoom in on this photo, there's not a lot of actual resolution on the photo. So editing the image is not possible if all you have is a thumbnail. But if I'm working on my iPad mini and I decide that I want to edit a photo that is not in that device, that the only version I have is a thumbnail, Mylio is smart enough that when I open that photo full size, it will look on my network. And if it finds another device that's part of my Mylio world, and that device has a better version of the photo, it will temporarily bring that version to me on the device that I'm looking at and allow me to work with it. So if I'm on my iPad mini and all I have is a thumbnail of that otter, but my phone is in the other room and Mylio can see my phone, it'll grab a preview version from my phone, bring it to my mini, and then I can work on it automatically at a better resolution. So again, this is the distributed nature of Mylio. I'm gonna go to the last view that I haven't shown you, which is the folder view. And this view is very, very important because it's part of how we explain how Mylio works. instead of your photos being on a proprietary library that you can only access when you're working through the Mylio application, your photos are simply in a folder in your devices, and you can go directly to those photos as long as the original photo is in that device. So you'll notice I have a number of folders being shown here. I'm going to split my screen. I'm going to go to my primary vault here. This is the drive that has all the original versions of my photos. And if I open the Mylio folder in that drive, you'll notice that the same folders that I show in Mylio, 105 tests, Android photos, Apple photos, those folders are in my device, and I can access those photos directly. So if I went to 105 tests here, I'm going to see a bunch of folders and then some other photos. Here's a folder I don't want. I can delete it in Mylio. Mylio is going to delete it from the hard drive as well. And if I go ahead and create a new folder here and call it example folder 1, I created that folder in Mylio using my computer. That folder was automatically created on my hard drive. And now I can take a bunch of these photos, like these photos of this bird. It has a nest next to my window. I'm going to go ahead and move those photos to that new example folder I just created. Hit continue. And what happens now is that the photos were moved within Mylio. I can now see them in that folder, but they were also moved into that folder at the hard drive level. And I can do this not just from the computer that's connected to the hard drive. I can do this from any device. So here is my iPad. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen from my iPad. So here's my iPad screen. Make it a bit larger so you can see it better. And I am in folder view on my iPad. If I go and visit that same folder, the 105 tests, there's the folder that I just created on my computer is already on my iPad. Using my iPad now, I can create another new folder. I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder. I'm going to call it example folder number 2. I'll hit enter. The folder was created on the iPad. It's also created on the computer. And in just a few seconds here, once Mylio is synchronized, it will appear in the hard drive as well. And from the iPad, I can now go ahead and move some photos back and forth. So I can go into the flowers photos here. I can select a couple of photos. I can say, move these photos to a folder. Let's move them to this example folder 2 that I just created. Those photos are now in example folder 2 in my iPad, also in my computer, but there's the folder on the hard drive, and in a few seconds, those files will actually physically be moved in the hard drive, even though I did this remotely from my iPad. So I could be across town and do the same thing. And I could be creating new folders, creating new permanent organization that I can access even outside of Mylio, because that organization happened everywhere. Mylio is distributing that. Now I'm going to move my iPad over here, and I'm going to open and zoom in on this flower photos. And I'm going to show you something else that Mylio does and synchronizes. I can take this photo of the flower and I can decide to edit it. And again, I'm on my iPad doing this editing. I'm just going to apply a filter to it. In just a few seconds, that filter will also be applied, there it goes, on my computer. And likewise, I can go into my computer, open that photo, decide I'm going to edit it on my computer. I can just remove the filter I applied. And again, that change synchronizes. Now you see that on my iPad, the filter has been removed. So any work that I do on one device, like rotating a photo, applies to the photo on all your other devices. And I could do this all day. I can do that on the iPad, or I can do it on the computer, Mylio just keeps the two devices synchronized. I can even go ahead and take a new photo, and that new photo is going to go everywhere. So here's my iPad. I'm going to leave Mylio. I'm going to open my camera. On the computer, I'm going to switch to the place where Mylio puts photos of that comes from my iPad, right? That place is the Apple Photos folder. There's an Apple Photos folder, and there's an iPad library in that folder. And this is where new photos come in. And I'm going to go ahead and before I take that photo, I'm going to also move my hard drive to that folder, Apple Photos, iPhone library. They're sorted by date modified, so the newest photo will appear at the top. So now with my iPad, I'm going to go ahead and take a photo of my octopus friend here. I will open Mylio. That photo will show up in Mylio in just a second. There it is. I have the photo on my iPad within Mylio now. And what you'll notice in just a few seconds here is that Mylio is going to start synchronizing that photo. It's already telling me, you can see it right here on the iPad, that this photo is not saved to a vault. That's what the little shield means. So in just a few seconds, Mylio is going to go, hey, your photos from your iPad are not synchronized. I'm going to bring it over. There it is on my computer. So that photo that I just took on my iPad is now in the right folder on my computer. And as soon as this synchronization here with the shield is complete, you can see the little icon spinning there. As long as the synchronization to the vault, which is the hard drive, is complete, that photo will also show on the external hard drive. So that is the distributed notion of Mylio. This is how Mylio keeps all your photos synchronized. You can no longer have to be tied to just your computer to organize your photos. You can start on your computer, then move to the couch with your iPad and continue doing the face tagging, then grab your phone and go across town. And while you're on the bus or on a taxi or maybe on a plane ride, you can do a lot of work on your phone or on your tablet. You can go to the coffee shop with your laptop, and all the work that you do there will also be shown on all your other devices. By the way, there's that photo of the octopus now on the hard drive connected to my computer. It just came across because Mylio synchronized it for me. So if I lost my iPad right now, I wouldn't lose that new photo that I just took. And that is it. We have hopefully answered the two questions for you. What is Mylio and how does it work? That is all we have time for today. Thank you very much. We appreciate you taking the time and watching us, and hope to see you on a future webinar. Take care.